Refusal. It's a powerful idea. Somebody says no, that can resonate. If you say no with a purpose and a plan, you could change society. I come from a group of people, I consider myself a group of people from around the world who've engaged in refusal at times when they've said, African people should not be able to do this, and we refuse to accept that. At times when they said, you're not supposed to be here, I said, I'm right here standing. One of those who exemplified that courage, who passed away recently, was Muhammad Ali, and his refusal to be inducted into the army. He refused to harm other people, although he even said, my profession is boxing. But it's nothing like dropping a bomb on somebody or having a gun pointed at someone. That thread that goes back through time, Muhammad Ali was a part of that. And I hope to connect to that to some degree. And I'm excited to see young people doing that similarly today. So I have this idea. And I always kind of pause when I say it because it worried me when I first thought it. Then when I first said it out loud, it kind of scared me. But here goes. Black men should stop playing professional sports. Black folks should stop watching professional sports. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about how I arrived at that from a personal level, from a professional level. A lot of it is thanks to my mother. Now, when I was 6 years old, the Dallas Cowboys were my team. Because my family was from Texas, and we were transplants out here to California, and the Super Bowl was on. Man, Super Bowl V. Dallas Cowboys versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I stayed up all Saturday night. I had on a little toy store helmet. I had on little toy store shoulder pads and even cleats. And I ran around in the backyard till I almost passed out. Then I got up and did it again. So when it came time for Sunday, and that game was played in the afternoon, like most 6-year-olds, I had to take a nap. Now, I knew my Cowboys were going to win, and so I could sleep soundly. But when I woke up, my parents had to tell me that my Cowboys had lost. So I vowed in my 6-year-old determination that I would become a Dallas Cowboy and ensure that this never happens again. So I headed up to the local school, and they had an after-school program for sports, and I got a sign-up sheet. I took it home, brought it to my mother, and she said no. I said, but Mom, we're from Texas. We love the Cowboys. This is what I must do. She said no. You are not playing sports, particularly football. I came to find out later that summer when we took a trip to Texas to go visit our relatives that my cousin had played football, and he broke his hip and his pelvis, and he was in a body cast. I'd never seen a grown person have to be helped to use the restroom. Understood that no on a physical level, but it still kind of stayed with me that I couldn't play sports. Now, both my parents are teachers, particularly math and science teachers. They're very focused on the idea that I had to do well in academics. And sure enough, I didn't believe them when I was 6 years old, but I earned my doctorate in educational psychology. Thanks. My mother would love that. I've had the chance to be a clinician and a researcher, and also in charge of mentoring programs for young boys. And I've asked parents, what does it take for your sons to be successful? Out of the hundreds of parents I've interviewed, very few actually said athletics were a part of the equation. They're more focused on their love for their son, their flexibility as parents, and making connections that would help their son lifelong, not just on the playing field. I also did a dissertation looking at social capital networks. What those are really the relationships that people have with other people to help their programs. And these two programs I looked at in Los Angeles that were mainly focused on the academic success of black boys, they had a vast social network, but very few athletes in their network. And even those athletes were more utilized for their college-going contacts rather than the athletic prowess that they had displayed in the past. So this got me thinking a little bit, and it brought me back to the broader question of this whole thing about black men in sports here in the United States, but also worldwide. Because there was a question throughout the 1900s. Are black men intelligent enough and capable enough even to play the games that they're excelling in today, like basketball and football? Can they even coach? And that was a question not too long ago. 3 folks, and I call them folks because they were inspiring to me as I was growing up, demonstrated that, yes, not only were they capable, but they had a chance to impact the rest of the world. The first one is Paul Robeson. He was a football player in the 20s and 30s, but he used his platform to speak about human rights for workers. Another one was Bill Russell. Bill Russell was one of the first black coaches in the modern era in the NBA, or the National Basketball Association. And he had to deal with racism in the locker room, on his own team, as well as in his own community. And he connected people in that way. Another one who got me thinking internationally was Pele. One of the ambassadors from Brazil, Pele's home country, said that Pele was one of the greatest ambassadors he had ever met or ever seen. And his idea was to simply spread joy, but also highlight great things that are happening throughout the world, particularly in so-called third world countries, but reminding people of their humanity. So those are pieces and parts of education as well as sports that I love. But there have been other questions that I've had. So when I think about universities and college and young men going to college, is education really the issue? Particularly at these money-making institutions where they play big sports that are making millions of dollars, basketball or football. Only 30 to 45% of these athletes are graduating. At some of the same schools, non-athletes are graduating at a rate of 50 to 55%. So in effect, black men who are not athletes are more likely to graduate. So I have to think about when I'm mentoring, supporting young men as they're going through, is education really the issue? The sport that I love, I told you about football. There's been this film out called Concussion. And I'm going to mention some of the people that I admire who play the game of football. Tony Dorsett, who played in that Super Bowl that I was able to watch at least most of the game. Tony Dorsett suffers from dementia now. He can barely remember his way home. Earl Campbell, another player from Texas, who used to run over and through people. He hit people so hard that they retired from the game that same week after dealing with Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell could barely walk. What really hit me, though, was my hometown hero, and I grew up in Oceanside, California, Junior Seau. When he took his own life after suffering from depression due to what doctors call chronic traumatic encephalopathy, after so many concussions and hits to the head, he was in such pain. I stopped watching football. I even had to start questioning watching basketball and soccer. Basketball, I found that many of the men who play the game are often poor and destitute afterwards. Soccer players even had to make a campaign in the 2010s to ask fans not to be racist towards them, to stop throwing bananas at black players, calling them the N-word, or making monkey chants. Some players even stopped playing during the middle of the game because it was so overwhelming. All this time spent. Even I've spent time. I've even made my wife a football widow on the weekends. Strange term, but I think of my children too, because I was just about dead to them unless the commercial came on. They call daddy, daddy. And those missed opportunities for me to connect with my children. Are we connecting around academics? Are we connecting around health? Are we connecting around economic development? There came a point when I was studying for my doctorate. I was studying so hard on the weekends, 3 to 6 hours at a time in the library. One year, I missed the Super Bowl. I just got a glimpse of getting that time back. I was focused on these young people who I was working with here in Long Beach and helping them get to college. I was coming up with new ideas. Imagine if we had that time back. 9 to 12 hours a week is how many hours the average American spends watching sports. What if we got that time back? So here's my challenge. Now, I don't know if there are any professional athletes here, but my challenge is for y'all. Stop playing sports for the next 3 years. Connect with researchers and community members who can help solve some of these challenges in the very cities where you play these games and where stadiums are built almost tax-free. Maybe the sports team fund some of that, maybe the athletes, or maybe the people themselves take back some of that time. Black folks, stop watching sports. At least 2 times a month. First time of the month, we connect for real. Not around a TV screen, not around some smartphone, but we actually talk about the issues that have been going on. On that second time in the month, black folk, connect with young people, whether they're boys or girls. I know this talks specifically about young men, but connect with young people. Encourage them, encourage their mind, their bodies, for them to take care of their bodies long term, because we're suffering from high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease at rates that just don't make any sense. And everyone, if you love black men, particularly watching them on the TV, spend some time, spend some energy promoting awareness about the issues that impact black men. And if need be, throw some money down on programs that specifically impact black men. Now, this is all good, at least for me. If I get one other person who's able to spend just a little bit more time with one black boy each week so he can have a better academic, health, or economic outcome. I know I got one in here. Thanks for your time.